Welcome along, one and all, to League of Europe Season 11. This is the 13th round of the 11th season championship. This is the penultimate round of the season, coming to you from Qatar. The Lusail International Circuit is the venue for tonight's action. I'm sure you'll be glad to hear my voice again. Yes, I am back to take you through the action here tonight. And once again, alongside me in the commentary box is Indigo or Jamie Morris. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to have you back in the commentary box after it was a good race back in Hungary, but now we move here to Qatar, which can be a little bit difficult in terms of fuel because it is a fuel burn around here, so expect many drivers to overfill the car by about plus 2.5 laps as I did last time, but still couldn't really make it around. But safety cars can be a bit difficult to deploy around here because there's so many runoff areas, you're most likely to hit the wall and retire. So we might not see any safety cars here tonight, or might jinx that, but we've got some people there coming out of the pit lane. The first one is Ilar Mustache in the Haas and Hazara as well. 19 drivers on the circuit or in the lobby, which is very nice to see indeed.
Yeah, I think that's the best turnout we've had in a long time this season. Yes, some of those runoffs on the exits of some of these corners are gargantuan. So we will get into the action regardless, and we will say, as it stands, with just 2 rounds to go in the season, both championships have been wrapped up. Russell took home the Drivers' Championship. He finished just behind Shadowglow on the circuit, but he is 64 points ahead with 64 points left on offer. But with the amount of wins he's got, that makes it mathematically impossible for anyone else to take away that title. So Russell, we can say, is your champion for Season 11. And also his Alpine team with Campbell have also wrapped up the Constructors' Championship title. So that is what has gone down, and we will look forward then to 2 races where maybe not quite as much is at stake, but there is certainly some great action to be had on track as these first laps now, Jamie, getting started.
Yeah, so we've got Slash on the lap based on the intermediate, so we'll go on board with Mustache instead, as you'll set a representative lap time on the soft compound tyres then. So as we head down this long straight, plenty of opportunities to overtake around here as we make our way down into turn 1, braking just before the 50 metre board, into 4th gear he goes, on the exit very wide on the exit 2, to set it up into turn number 3 we go, and the exit as well in 5th gear, fully flat out through these corners and make our way now towards the end of the first sector very shortly, coming in towards turn 4 and turn 5, and the back of the car is flashing if you're off board because he's turned off his ERS, and that's the best way to do it because you'll see plenty of drivers derating down that straight, but the best way to negate that is to turn off your ERS, and you'll gain a lot of battery down the straight, a lot of time too, which a lot of people did in my qualifying session, and it turned out to be sufficient as well. So watch out for that as well in this qualifying session. Now make our way in towards this left-hander we go. Very careful the exit, not too validate because you want to run out wide, but not too out wide here as we make our way down towards the triple right-hander through turn 12, 13 and 14. Lovely corners indeed. 7th gear, absolutely committed through here. In the race, you want to watch out for child limits as well because it can be very tricky in that part of the track. Making our way through left-hander, slight lift off into 6th gear, but back on the throttle immediately as we make our way down towards the final corner. It can be a bit of a tricky one this one because your tyres are hot. It's very easy to oversteer as well. DRS is enabled. Then let's see when he runs out of battery on the straight. Slash goes quickest on the inters and he runs out now. It's a 20.4 on his bankers. That's not a bad lap time, you know, on the soft compound tyres. I believe he was 2/10 off me as I did my best time at 20.2 towards the end of the session, and Campbell goes quickest as he instantly puts that Alpine into P1 with a 20.4. He's about 100s quicker. I believe McLaren's made a mistake. Was that QVR Verstappen who spun going out of turn 15? I'm not quite sure. Or was it the other McLaren?
Yeah, I think that was Gary then is just heading to pit lane. Coming down the straight though is QVR Verstappen. He is on a lap and he is going to see it through. He does a 120.5, goes third for the moment. Matthew 40, who's actually making his very first appearance on the season, he has gone through and a 122.6. I saw him go sideways out of turn 15, so that brought an end to his challenge on these opening runs, at least as the top times are concerned. The rest of the field have seemed to hold back quite a bit. Many cars still sitting in the pit lane with Slash, Chris, Sweet Crown all going out on inters, and that says to me, Jamie, that those soft tyres, even though I wasn't sure about them as a race tyre around this circuit, it does seem to be that these drivers are valuing it because they seem to be wanting to save those, not going out early in the session and keeping those softs back.
Yeah, we saw the early doors of the Hungarian GP qualified, people saving a set of softs for the race. It could be the same scenario here in Qatar as well. Maybe the soft compound tyres are not too bad around here in Qatar. I don't really know because I don't really try them out. In a normal 50% race, with a one-stop strategy from hards to mediums, but obviously we have to do a mandatory two-stop around here. So strategy could be soft, medium, medium, or medium, soft, medium, depends how you want to play it out towards the early stages. We saw people start the soft compound tyres actually benefits. Chris goes out wide to validate, but it doesn't really matter anyway because on the intermediates. But people on the soft compound tyres really benefited that race as well. And they found a lot of time where people on the hard compound tyres dropped back quite a lot. I remember Campbell dropping back a lot, but at the same time, towards the end of the stint, he made up a lot of time, finished in 6th place ahead of Verstappen as well. Verstappen went for 2 early undercuts, which worked initially, but had to pay the price towards the end of the race because people on fresher tyres were coming at him thick and fast. So therefore, he dropped all the way down to 7th place. He was fighting for a podium along with a Cucumber and Russell too. There is Sweet Client in the Mercedes, but obviously on the intermediates then. So we are seeing a lot of people save a set of soft compound tyres around here, and it could be very useful in the race indeed.
We will see how these drivers decide to approach that then as we get some other runs just about to get ticked off then as we get things going. I think it is going to be Shadow Glow in the Williams then, rounding that final corner and gearing up for a lap around this Qatar circuit. He currently sits second in the standings and of course in a very tight fight with Verstappen for that second spot, so we'll see how he does indeed get on as he goes sweeping in to turn 1, holding 4th gear, then short shifting into 5th, trying to maximise the track limits then, using some of those AstroTurfs. It almost looks like grass, but it is a usable surface for the drivers, which they will use every bit of as they try and maximise their lap times around this track. Coming in towards turns number 4 and 5, a double right-hander, and then getting into the brakes hard, heading into turn number 6, again using that short shift on the exit for traction. Still the rear end threatens to step away, he holds it together, takes a wide entry line, heading into turn 7 and hard on the throttle, early on the throttle, really attack it. This is all this circuit is about. It is just maximum attack, going all into every corner then and risking it all. Let's see how he's been rewarded in that second sector. Comes over the line now. Is it quick? It's around about where Campbell and Mustache were looking at a 20.4. It was a 53.1 second sector. That's exactly on par with what the top two have been doing. Can he eke out a little bit more in this last sector? Big snap then, just as we saw from Matt heading round turn 15. You have to commit to it, and ultimately Shadow Glow just paying the price. He dives to the pit lane and that lap is all over with.
Yeah, I have struggled at that particular part of the track before, the exit at turn 15, where you downshift to 6th gear, lift off, then back on the throttle again. It's a very tricky part of that track it is. You can be very precise with it as well. Here comes Cucumber towards the line now. He goes into P4 with a 20.588, just a few hundreds behind Verstappen. And Cucumber was absolutely dominant back at the Hungarian Grand Prix too. He's got more people that cross the line to start their flying lap. And we've got, I think Pease is one of them in the AlphaTauri. I'm not quite sure if others out there on a lap time as well, with Rocco in the Mercedes also on a lap too. I think Pease is further ahead. He had a race around here, I think, a week or two ago in Qatar, and he wasn't too far away from that DRS train from the leading pack, so hopefully let's see what pace he's got here tonight. He has been very quick here in LOE in the past. We saw the French GP with his mighty defence for defending from P4 with 3 different drivers right behind him, and here we are then through the triple right-hander we go. Lovely committed part of the track, fully on throttle, slight lift off there as we make our way down into turn 15 we go, into 6th gear, slide up on the brake, straight up the car, back on the throttle again, and now making our way towards the final corner. The final corner sometimes can trick a lot of people out because you're coming in at fast speed with hot tyres, as it's the final corner, you can oversteer off the track, but here he's P's coming towards the line now. He goes into 5th place, so not the lap times I've seen from him so far in Qatar, but definitely a lot of time to improve. I think Williams made a mistake at turn 3 or an Alpine, not quite sure which one it was, but I definitely saw a car off the track in that section.
So we continue along in this qualifying session. I'm seeing a lot of red track maps then, a lot of invalidations. These guys struggling to keep it within the white lines, it would seem. So nevertheless, we continue. Look in the Aston Martin is furthest along, I believe, dropping in into 6th gear, keeping it flat out, heading through turn 14, in through 15. We've seen this catching a few drivers out. He plays it very safe though, not really exploring the maximum extremities of the track, just keeping it nice and consistent consistent as Gary retires. That's in the pit lane by the looks of it. So he's seemingly sitting on, well, no time in this session at the moment. Luke comes over the line, does a 1:21.259. So McLaren out of the session. Aston Martin just come over the line. Next up is a Ferrari. That's Fleddy just starting a lap. So we're at a point now. A lot of drivers on laps though and looking to get them ticked off. But at the moment, it's still rather tentative out there. We are still waiting on a number of drivers to get this sorted out. But I'm not seeing much, Jamie, then. Who's furthest along at the moment?
I'm not quite sure. I'm just flicking on board with different drivers to see how they're doing. But I did notice Gary, he didn't validate the exit at turn 15. He went out wide, then dived off into the pit lane as you expect. But Russell, his lap time, he's the world champion of LOE so far. But he validated in the early parts. Didn't see him go through turn 5 and turn 6 when he went through. So it must have been at turn 1 or turn 2 or 3, I'm not quite sure where it was, but however he hasn't validated, he's still pushing on them soft compound tyres, so not really backing off to try and cool the temperatures down. Let's see what he's going to do, if he can dive back into the pit lane or go for another lap around here as the Aston Martin gets nicely out the way for G. Russell there, but looking on board with other drivers, not quite sure who's on the lap. Street Car pops himself into P3 in the Mercedes with a 20.5, just a few hundreds ahead of Verstappen. So great lap time there for Street Car. He was up there back at the Hungarian Grand Prix. He had a massive fight with the Hazara too. They both moved wheel to wheel very aggressively in the opening laps of the race, and he got a 3-second time penalty due to that. So he did get his penalty removed, suggesting to me that he might have picked up some more warnings along the way, because he did finish at P2 initially, but at the same time I think he might have picked up more warnings and therefore could get that penalty removed. NLR Mustache, by the way, has got a 10th quicker in the middle sector in comparison to his best time. It's only a few hundreds away from Campbell in the Alpine. I think Slash has got up to P10 with Matt in P9 there. Shadow Glow in P6 in the Williams. Here comes Mustache now, making his way towards the line. What lap time he's going to set in the Haas? Let's have a look. 20.1.
Wow! Oh, that is fast. Nuth just went 1,000th of a second slower than Campbell just seconds before that. Monstrous time for Mustache with just under 6 minutes to go in the session. That is quite the marker for the rest of the drivers to chase. Hume goes 8th, 1:20.8 for the AlphaTauri, goes just in front of his teammate for the evening. Slash coming around that final corner, finally getting a representative time on the board. 53.2 to the first two sectors. That's pretty good going. Where does he end up? It is P6. Goes just in front of Cucumber then, and he manages to get a spot on the third row for the time being. And just further back then, that was Hazara, I believe, the Belgium race winner, going across the line 121 flat, I should say. Behind is Russell. He's invalidated a lap though, so struggling at the moment to get lap times on the board. He's not using any battery either, so it looks like he's just going about his business, and maybe he'll get one on the board. Of course, no pressure on him as the champion, but we'll see if he does indeed look to try and set a stall out. But that time for Mustache, 1:20.1, very, very fast, and I imagine very intimidating for the rest of the drivers to go up against.
Yeah, I don't think I could get anywhere near that with a 20.1, so that was an incredible lap time indeed. Russell, however, went out wide in the final corner on purpose to validate this and next lap, so he's done 3 laps on a set of soft compound tyres. He's not really struggling, just going out there for exploratory lap times, maybe on heavy fuel to just test out the track or his tyre wear. But towards the end of the qualifying session, I expect him to dive into the pit lane and put on a brand new set of softs to go for a flying lap around here in Qatar. But this two-stop strategy can be very interesting, you know, because the one-stop strategy, when you all get back in that DRS train, is so hard to overtake each other, because you're in that massive DRS train. There's no way you can overtake anybody, even if you're on fresher tyres, as a few people in my league, in the league I'm racing, and myself found out. So this two-stop strategy might split some people up, and we'll see who it benefits as well. We've got Verstappen out there on an outlap. I think he's the only driver on the circuit, along with Hazara and Russell out there on the circuit too, but I expect them to dive in the pit lane at the end of this lap. So Verstappen has pulled the trigger early, but might want to get those 2 laps in just in case he validates the first lap and he has enough fuel to go for that second lap again, like I do, because I'm not really a qualifying specialist. I do tend to validate lap times very easily or make a mistake on them, so I always have the second lap time just in case I make a mistake on the first.
And around this track especially, invalidating, very, very easy, very tempting to run over those track limits because you're pushing the apex speed through every corner up to the maximum. So leaving that margin for error can sometimes be smart. We'll see if it pays off for QVR Verstappen, who's gone out much earlier than the majority of his opposition, who are just now starting to emerge from that pit lane. So we'll see the rest of these drivers heading out later on. So Verstappen is going to be first up in that McLaren, now third in the championship, looking to take second. DRS is open and he's going to be just about over the line. It goes very long down the straight before you hit it. There it is, there's the line, and he gets the lap time kicked off. So heading in towards turn number one, couple of shifts down to fourth gear, then dabbing the brakes a couple of times, then hard on the throttle, exiting now through turns 2 and 3, sweeping through 2, and then it's flat out all the way down towards the end of this short burst towards turns 4 and 5, then maximising each of these corners. No need to compromise. You are going all in through both turns 4 and 5 to the end of the first sector. What is the first sector? It's quick. It's a 26.3. That's right on the money then through sector 1. How does sector 2 treat him now as he looks towards turn 7, 6th gear down to 4th, on the throttle, just feathering it, trying to keep the rear under control. Still all good then as he sweeps in towards turns 8 and 9. Now turn 10, watch for that exit and it tightens up on the throttle and away you go into the second sector now, heading in towards the third. What is the second sector split? Is it fast? It's very fast. It's a 53 flat. That's probably above anyone bar Mustache at the moment then, as he just the slightest hint of a lift, heading through turn 14, 15, he just dabs the brakes into 6th, then back up to 7th, in towards the final corner now, dabbing the brakes again, 5th gear, holds 5th gear, then hard on the throttle once again, up to the line now. QVR Verstappen, 5th at the moment. Where does this put him then? Up towards the line. What's the time going to be? It's full 120.190, just pipping the time of NLR Mustache by 0.005 of a second. One lap for Verstappen. How do the rest of the field respond?
And the All-Stars queue up there to set their final lap, with Shadowglow being one of them in the Williams and his teammates along with him too. So I'm not seeing any slipstream going on here so far in Qatar, but what a lap time for Verstappen there. 5 thousandths quicker than Mustache. Can Mustache respond? However, Russell's still going out there on 5-lap old soft power tyres. He hasn't pitted, so he could be starting down at P19. I don't think he's got the grip on those soft power tyres to go for a flying lap, a proper flying lap. He's almost a 10th up in the first sector in Shadowglow. They're good momentum at the corner. A bit of oversteer at the exit of turn 6, but that is a very tricky corner to get the throttle on as well. Here we are then towards turn 7, going out wide, then cuts it back in, and here we are at the exit of turn 8. This is a lovely track, built originally in 2004 for the MotoGP bikes and other categories as well. Now introduced in 2021 for Formula 1. These legs out there for turn 11 at the exit of the corner for Shadowglow, using all the track and get away with, and make our way now towards this triple right-hander we go. I love seeing these cars sweep through these corners at full speed. He's almost a 10th up or 2 in that middle sector, Shadowglow. Purple middle sector there, but he needs to find a bit more time in this last sector if he wants to be up there on pole. So let's see what he does in this final corner then. Very nice indeed. Short shifted to 5th gear to reduce wheel spin on the exit to get traction too. DRS enabled, and we'll see what lap time Shadowglow could set as he makes his way now very towards the line. It's going to be a 20.2.
So he goes third for the time being. His teammate Matthew 40 is a 10th slower through the first 2 sectors. He goes 9th, 120.5 is the time set. Then next up, it's a Mercedes. It's going to be a Rocco Reggie for real, but he's invalidated and no valid time for this session. Next up, it's an Alfa Romeo. Slash over the line. It's a 120.2, but invalid. That would have put him in 3rd place, but ultimately not to be, as Frank goes fastest then in the Red Bull. 120 flat goes to the top of the timesheets, but drivers are improving behind. Campbell is first up then with a toe all the way up to the line. Does it reward it with pole? No, 4th. Next up is going to be, I believe, it's going to be the Haas of Moustache, and he goes pole now on another 120 flat, 120.059 then. Aston Martin, Luke, goes 11th. Next up is the other Haas, Hazara. He goes 12th. And then it's going to be ET8 Chris and the Aston Martin. It's a 120.5. He goes to P8 then. Next up, Sweet Crown on a 0.5. As Nuth goes 3rd this time on a 120.1. Pease and then Jim will round off the session. Jim invalidated on his lap was a 20.3, and I think that will do it. A thrilling end to qualifying as pole position changing hands multiple times at the end of the session, but in the end it is NLR Mustache who comes out on top, looked to be the class of the field in the middle of the session and indeed at the end, showing improved form in recent rounds, and he does go pole then by the margin of just over 300ths of a second. Bit of a mixed up grid compared to what we're used to, but you cannot deny Mustache's pace there.
Yeah, super indeed. Almost close to the 19s as well. Haven't seen a 19 set here for a long time. If you get to the 19s, that's just incredible. But 20.0 regardless is still as impressive. But Russell there, P19, doing 7 laps of those soft compound tyres. So let's see what he could do for the back of the field then. Has he got the pace? Yes, he has got the pace. But the question is, how far ahead of the field will he get up there? Let's see where he finishes towards the end of the Grand Prix. We know he's got the pace, but overtaking might be a bit difficult with the DRS trades around here. You'll see plenty of that as well around this circuit. But here is the grid then. It should be a spicy one. Sweet Crowd did invalidate his last lap. So did, who was it? I think it was Fleddy as well in P14. But yeah, Sweet Cloud, unfortunately, it would have been a .3, so 7th place still, because the guys ahead of him set 20.2s.
Yes, so to wrap up the grid then is Mustache from Frank in the Red Bull, then Nuth, Verstappen, Campbell and Shadowglow the top 6, then Sweet Crown, Chris, Slash and Cucumber rounds out the top 10, and behind that is Matt, Luke, Hazara, Fleddy, Yum and Pease in the 2 AlphaTauris, the slow to the guys to set a time. Gary and Rocco were unable to get times on the board. We saw Gary retiring early, and I think on Russell's side, a little bit of gamesmanship. The championship's wrapped up. I think he wants to have some fun out there. So we'll see him try and progress through this field. But it does mean we may get the opportunity to have another different winner. Of course, we did have a Cucumber last time out in Hungary, getting surprisingly his first win of the season. We'll see if anyone else can step up to the plate here in Qatar as we get lined up. Doesn't look like any sign of rain. That's to be expected around here, although D4 race last season it did have rain. So we will look forward to the race. Should be dry. We'll see how it goes. Qualifying tends to be a fairly good predictor here, but it can all change. We will see as the drivers look to get towards the grid very, very shortly. So, Jamie, with everything set, the question is, can Mustache, who we haven't seen at the front of the grid very much this season, apart from really in the Australian Grand Prix, can he hold on to that then with a furious pack of 18 cars behind?
It's going to be very difficult. A massive challenge there for Mustache. He's going to have to play a lot of cat and mouse games with the DRS as well, because you don't really want to be first in that DRS trade at all, because you could get swamped later on. So we'll see how the strategy plays. There is a mandatory 2-stop, so we'll see if anybody gains with the strategy for that 2-stop strategy. But let's see then how Mustache plays out.
Yeah, of course, we saw a lot of drivers saving soft tyres during the qualifying session, so we'll see if that's reflected in the strategies. I have heard feedback from some of the drivers. They do not like the hard tyre around this track. Looks as though the prevailing strategy call is going to be the medium, but with, well, amongst our top three different compounds, Mustache from the front, interestingly going for the hards. Cucumber and Numa joined him on that strategy. Most of the top 10 opting for the mediums. Notable exception, Nuth P3 on softs. Cucumber, as I mentioned, is on hards. Then most drivers further down the grid on the softs and looking to make up ground in the race. So a good mix then, and I think those top 3, Jamie, proved the most intriguing prospect ahead of this race.
Yeah, so a Mustache on the hard compound tyres, then he might be struggling towards the early stages of the mediums and softs. It will be a better tyre. Will he drop back places, or will he stay in P1? We'll see. But Nuth and P3 on those soft compound tyres should have the best advantage and the best grip towards the opening stages, so he has to capitalise on those softs to move himself further up the grid, and he has to really on those soft compound tyres. Can't afford to be staying behind the top 2 who are on harder tyres, mediums and hards in this top 2. But yeah, so the whole field is just a big mix-up really of softs and hards and mediums. Only 3 people on the hard compound tyres, but those people who say to set as softs, could they use them later and try and gain back the time?
That's to be answered later on. I think that may be the indication. Maybe looking for that last stint in particular to try and make some track position there. In the meantime, they'll try and hold firm. Of course, we do have 6 consecutive drivers from Verstappen down to Slash starting on those mediums, so all even footing amongst those guys. But yes, those top 3, that's going to be one to look out for. Can Moustache, who showed phenomenal pace in qualifying, convert on tyres that will be lacking in grip in those opening laps? Then Frank and Nuth will certainly be looking to get on the offensive early on. It isn't the longest run in the world down towards turn 1, and actually you can certainly convert a pole position. I don't think it's the hardest pole to convert, but you certainly don't want to be out of tyres, as Moustache runs very fast up towards the grid, now gets parked up. So the grid will eventually settle. Watch out for your champion coming up from the back, then doing a last to first challenge. We'll see what the result is for the Season 11 champion of League of Europe Division 1. Finally, these cars then will take their places on the grid. Moustache and Frank the front row. Who's going to lead it into turn 1? Who will lead after 29 laps of the Losail International Circuit? We are about to find out, as now the drivers are ready. The grid is set and the lights are coming on. We have 4, 5 lights. And they leave the grid in Qatar. Slash picks up a penalty for a jump start then, as Moustache's grip off the line, not as good as you would have thought, as you'd see. Now Nuth trying to thread his way through to the inside in a turn 1, tries to snatch away the lead, and does have the lead. I think he gave plenty of space, but he does manage to sweep around the outside of Moustache, and the Ferrari is ahead. Frank couldn't manage to jump the Haas off the line, and Campbell tucking in 4th, Verstappen 5th, running in the top 5 then up towards the end of the first sector, then sweeping through turns 4 and 5. Sweet Crown managing to pick it up on Shadowglow, and the Williams, who regresses down to 7th, tries to get it back then, heading in towards turn 6, draws level with the Mercedes and punching onto the throttle on the exit. Then they almost bang wheels as they head into the second sector, this high speed section of the track, and Shadowglow eventually has to yield. Nuth snatched away. He used the grip of those soft tyres to his advantage, but the rest of the grid struggling to make places then as they all fall into line through this very tough section of the track. Hazara and Matt, and it looks like Cucumber losing places down there. Did he get caught up there at turn 10? The Alfa Romeo sliding down the order then as Russell's made places. They're still fighting it out then as Fleddy has run side by side with Russell. It's absolute pandemonium down the back of the field, while it's relatively civilised up at the front. So they finally managed to sort themselves out heading through turn 15 as Nuth pulls clear from the start, using those soft tyres to his advantage, and Frank in second place trying to keep pace.
Right, so it's a battle between Hazard and Matt as Campbell gets closer and closer. He wants to overtake him now in the early stages on those medium compound tyres, which he does, so he puts him into P3. But however, Hazard went a bit too hot in turn 10, and now Matt has lost another place towards P's. Into P11 he goes on those soft compound tyres as well, for good measure, although Hazard and P's on the soft compound tyres as I get the graphics up as well. But I want to mention that Hazard went in too deep, just tapped the rear of Matt there, put him into a slide, and therefore lost a lot of places in the process. He's down to P11, and a few more drivers had taken board action already. But at the front, Nuth has pulled over a second, which is very critical now because he's out of the DRS range, and he needs to stay out of the DRS range while it's on the soft compound tyres. So he's pulled a big gap already. Can he maintain that though? Because Frank's still got a lot of ERS in his disposal to use if he wants to get himself back in that 1 second range of DRS.
He's going to have to work for it then. Nuth's tyres are still strong, but the question is, how long does it stay that way? The rest of the field pretty much intact, with the exception of Slash, who found himself way down the order then in 19th position. It was not a good first lap for Alfa Romeo, so he's going to be hoping for a miracle, or in particular a safety car, later on in the race. Nuth maintaining the gap through the second sector, the last sector too of this second lap. He does lead by just over a second, and he's burning off that battery. He knows how crucial these opening laps are for him, and there is only one DRS zone around this track. It's going to be difficult to claw him back if he does have such good pace up the front, but Frank is remaining patient then, and I think they do expect to come back to him. Campbell in third place too, holding firm very nicely as Pease and Hazara fighting away, heading through turn number 1, and Hazara has to tuck back in as Pease has P9 on the road then, trying to make progress on those softs, but they are already becoming stagnant then, stuck in this train of medium runners, as well as Moustache on the hard. So after a tough first lap, you have to say he's sticking right up nicely to Campbell and Frank. So those hards already seem to be coming into play, and Moustache, despite a poor first lap, he's holding his own.
Like opposite effect there for Cucumber, because he's lost 6 places, unfortunately, for the Alfa Romeo driver. and let's see if those hardcore power tyres will come back into play. But Mustache, however, hasn't lost a lot of places, like you said, so P4 isn't too bad considering the guys around him are on softer tyres. And P's, however, making use of those soft power tyres, made a lovely move into turn 1, had the inside line, took P9 away, got himself ahead of Hazara. Both Hazara and P's made up quite a few places. P's made up 7 places from starting P16, Hazara from P13 to P10 then. So those guys use the soft power tyres to their advantage and trying to make as many places as they can before the soft power tyres will start to come to the end then. So DRS enabled, we're headed on to lap 4. Nuth has pulled a 1.8 second gap ahead of Frank, and Frank has to watch out for Campbell right behind. Campbell looking in better shape in this race as he has done in the past few races, because usually he gets caught out with first lap problems and etc, and also double stacking, so he's up into P3, finally up there where he deserves to be after a few problems in the last few races. But can he hold on there, because we've still got plenty of laps left to go, anything could happen in this race as well. And Frank in P2 then, watch out for the guys behind on those medium compound tyres, and they are DRS2 for good measure. But further down the field, I don't think anyone else is making any more places on those soft compound tyres then. So stacked for the time being, although an Aston Martin at turn 6 put it horribly wrong at the exit corner. They just has a massive step over the oversteer. That was crisp, but managed to keep on the track then and stays in P8. He's got 3 soft runners right behind him though, but he needs to stay in this DRS range, otherwise get swapped for the guys behind. The Williams and Shadow Glow there, losing the back end of the car, just twitching as he tries to apply the throttle as quickly as he can.
Shadow Glow running 7th then, Crest. The rear end of that Aston Martin does look nervous then, watching from behind with P's, and he's going to try and stick with that DRS range. He does, however, have a lot of battery to use. By the way, so does Mustache. He nearly has a full battery in P4, as now the tyre deficit seems to be fading away, as now Frank has closed a few tenths on Nuth. Nuth used a lot of battery too on the first couple of laps to try and establish that gap. He did that, but now they're starting to come back towards him. Campbell in P3, by the way, on the last lap, lifting down the straight, so he's clearly got no interest in the moment of taking away that P2. You see, he does the same again, as we do have swappers further down the straight. Luke and Matt are battling away, heading into turn 1. Luke goes deep on the brakes, tries to see it through, tries to cut off the Williams, and does so. Matt slides down to P12, now has Gary and also Russell closing in. Gary was one of the other drivers that didn't set a lap time in that qualifying session, making good progress in these early laps on those soft tyres, the tyre dynamics influencing the opening laps of this race. But they do seem to be beginning to equalise, and Mustache now looks to be starting to threaten towards Campbell. He's sitting close behind. I don't think Campbell's going to be massively worried about that, but Mustache's race pace is going to cause concerns, I imagine, for the rest of this grid. So Frank controlling P2 for the moment, not really coming under threat, and I think it's really a long game for these guys. They're not desperate to close the gap to Nuth, they're not desperate to pull moves on each other, they're just sitting back, and the action, I imagine, will come later.
Yeah, just wait for a long game. They don't really want to fight too hard, especially in the early stages, to allow Nuth to pull away and squabble amongst themselves for P2. So they just sit back and relax that DRS trade before the proper moments start happening there. But you can see that Mustache, with a lot of DRS at his disposal, sitting pretty there in P4 on the hard compound tyres there. So watch out for him later in this race as he goes on to the softer tyres towards the end of the race there. As Nuth has pulled out just a 2-second gap, but he is quite low on the ERS, and you can see him already derated. He's got 0% battery whatsoever then. So here comes Campbell and Frank, and he puts himself up into P2. They're just swapping places in that DRS train. Nice easy overtake, but do they have the pace there to try and catch up towards Nuth? They certainly have the battery, but they don't want to be burning too much of it, because it's so difficult to try and regenerate some of that battery as well. So you watch out for that, because it might hurt in the long game afterwards.
Campbell taking that P2 says he has the pace to chase down Nuth. He believes so anyway, so can he close that 2-second gap, or 9/10 of a second now if you want to count it to the DRS. So that's the target he's aiming for, and he's using some battery now. He's interested in getting this gap closed down. He does not want a car dangling off the front of this train, so he is going on the offensive. Frank was happy to oblige then. They don't want to lose time fighting each other, as you said, so efficient overtaking is the name of the game for everyone within this train. That train now runs down towards P9 as Hazara begins to struggle, and the tyres not quite holding as well as they are with the cars in front. That gap has just opened up to over a second, and he is struggling to hold on then, turning in early towards turn 12, trying to hold it together, but the rear end of the car just complaining, and he's going to have to try and work his way back in, but very, very difficult, because they'll all be pulling each other along down this main straight. Campbell hasn't closed much on Nuth, has done a very nice job of keeping these guys at bay as they head on towards the 7th lap of the race, with numerous pit stops then and soft runners diving to the pit lane. Hazara, Matt, and Gary all in then, getting those softs off and looking for an undercut in this very tightly packed field.
Yeah, Hazara there lost the DRS towards his nearest rival. He did extend track limits at the final corner. He had to slow down to ensure he did pick up a track limit warning then, so that's probably why he lost that 1 second pace of advantage there. But yes, the guys in the pit lane then on the soft compound tyres converging towards the medium tyres. Maybe it's a soft, medium strategy. But those guys, Mustache, however, might have exceeded track limits out of turn 5 heading to turn 6 there because he went out wide. He lifted off massively to ensure they might have picked up a warning or not. I'm not quite sure. But however, you can be really careful on track limits because you'll bite you later in the race. However, Nuth's pace looking very efficient right now in P1. Sufficient, sorry, because it's 2.1 seconds. Still got the gap over Campbell. Still extending despite having no battery there in the Ferrari, so he's doing a mega job there in P1 so far, but his tyres start fading away surely towards the next few laps of this Grand Prix, and therefore Campbell, Frank and Mustache will have the advantage. ILTC in the chat says he's supported Frank and Fleddy. Frank in P3, I'm not quite sure that's ILT Frank or not, or it's a different Frank, but if it is ILT Frank, he's done a mega job so far in P3 considering his results in the past few races.
Yeah, I'm sure that is IRT Frank himself, currently running third. Interesting on this gap between the top two. Nuth, even though he has run off strategy compared to these guys, it is a threat that these guys are going to have to start taking very seriously as that gap continues to extend. Over 2 seconds now. Rocco to the pit lane, trying to make some ground. We'll see where he emerges in relation to those other 3 guys that made their pit stops. That's going to be one of the first clues as to how this race situation is going to unfold, as Russell has got past Luke further down the order, and he's going to look to close that gap on the train in front of him. He's not got much battery, but he's got to try and get himself into that mix further down the line. I think we'll be seeing more pit stops pretty soon as we approach 1/3 of the way through this Qatar Grand Prix. Watching Rocco now as he comes out of the pit lane now and is down the main straight. Gary and Matt swap places then. You can see that gap opening up between the Williams and the Mercedes. The undercut looks to be working, and Hazara in particular in 15th at the moment looks to gain through that first round of pit stops as the rest of the drivers that come in. I was expecting the gap from these guys to Nuth to decrease over these last few laps, but it's not happening, and Nuth is maintaining that gap despite, as you said, being on those softs and having less battery. So Campbell unable to close that by himself, and you say they may even have to start relaying with each other if they want to get that down, because even against the guy that's running off strategy, I'll tell you, it's the mentality of a league racer. You do not want to have someone running out of the train and on their own. As the race leader goes into the pit lane, Nuth from the lead in the Ferrari.
Yeah, 8 laps on those soft compound tyres, not too bad indeed, and didn't lose a lot of time either towards the guys behind. So Russell and Pease will also follow in as Campbell takes the lead of this Grand Prix, and this should spice things up then as we see where will Nuth rejoin in comparison to the other people as well, and the guys that pitted. As Campbell takes the lead of the Grand Prix, QVR Gary gets a 3 second time penalty. And I'm surprised not more people have picked up track limits, because I've seen a lot of people go out wide here and there. But I won't be surprised if people pick up penalties either, because it's such a brutal track for track limits, and that could be the factor towards the end of this Grand Prix as well. Who will have not any penalties towards the end of the Grand Prix, like we saw back in Hungary too, when people picked up track limits even on the podium, like Sweetclown, the man in P5 so far, and he's in that DRS trade too, with Shadow Glow in 6th place, and Chris just holding on there in P7 with the Aston Martin of Luke in P8, just detached from this DRS train and had his own battle there with Cucumber in P9 on the hard compound tyres. Cucumber did have a bad start, a poor start, lost 6 places as a process, but now he's up into P9 on those hard compound tyres, and we'll see what he can do there. So Nuth is rejoined in P12 there, ahead of Hazara, and should have clear air then in P12 to try and get as much lap time as he can before the guys ahead start pitting.
I think they may have to start doing that soon then. They may be going for a tyre offset in this second stint, but you do not want to lose too much time off the bat though. But at the same time, these guys want to extend those mediums, with the exception of Shadow Glow. Into the pit lane comes the Williams drivers. Hazara picks up a time penalty then. Again, as you said, time penalties a big factor around this circuit. Very easy to run outside of those white lines. So Luke has gone in as well behind from the medium tyres, but I imagine the gap to Nuth is going to be fairly substantial then. He's 4 seconds ahead of Hazara, and he's going to look to make time on tyres which are the same compound as the race leaders, but 9 full laps, or 8 full laps fresher I should say. So that is going to pay very well to his advantage. He emerges well clear of Shadowglow, who goes to the hard compounds, and he's going to emerge right in this gaggle then. We saw Pease get out just in front of Gary. Can Shadowglow get out just in front of Pease? They're going to be side by side. Pease sweeps around the outside, and Gary tries to follow suit up onto the white line on the exit of turn 1. Has the inside for turn 2, and the cold tires, the cold hards of Shadowglow just do not give him that fighting potential, and through goes Gary. He runs 13th then. Matt now eyeing up his teammate then. They run side by side. Shadowglow is going to have to try and get temperature into those hards. We've seen from Moustache that those tires can work well when they get in the operating window, but that outlap is going to be painful for him. He's got to try and stay in that range of the cars in front of him. So Hazara, Pease, Gary leading away that train from coming in earlier, but Nuth's got a big lead on these guys then, and I imagine some of these leading train are going to have to respond, and Verstappen does that. He dives to the pit lane, I imagine covering off his main rival Shadowglow, who came in on the previous lap.
Yeah, Shadowglow, Verstappen still fighting over P2 in the championship as Verstappen makes his way into the pit lane, obeying the 80km/h pit rule. As you can see there, Frank all the back of Campbell, but not willing to make a move. So we'll see when the guys in the lead decide to pit, because they're going to rejoin well behind these guys, because you can see the undercut is very powerful around here, evidently, because Pease and Hazard was nowhere near in the battle in the lead in that DRS train there, but they managed to get Shadowglow as well. So there they are, there's that leading pack in the second train, and there is the Williams and McLaren going side by side, headed down into turn 1 we go, and that Shadowglow trying to go around the outside of Gary, trying to reclaim P11. He doesn't really have the grip, but he's still sticking there, has the nose in the inside for the next corner. Gary doesn't yield, though he's on the outside, might have to yield now, and he puts that Williams up into P11 then, trying to regain some lost ground, and he puts that car into P11 right behind Pease and Hazara too. So when these guys pit, the guys in the lead, they're going to come out in this midfield battle, and it could be very, very interesting to see how it all plays out as well. Things will get very close between those guys.
Yeah, the order is going to get shaken up, I imagine, quite wildly by the difference in the pit laps then. A lot of those soft runners coming in earlier, they did benefit. Hazara now runs, may even be in a net P2. We'll see how it ends up when these top runners decide to pit. Campbell pits, predictably. In comes Moustache 2 from the hards, and Chris from the mediums, who was running in P5. So this leading train now coming in, and they will pretty much be laying astern with that second train that's running on the road. Nuth in the middle, he's going to have a very handsome lead at the moment, and it's up to the rest of the grid to try and chase him down. Hazara, I imagine, is going to get pressured and passed by Pisa. He's got the oldest tyres in and the least grip. He understeers round that final corner, and surely Pisa in the AlphaTauri, he's not got much battery himself, but he's going to charge forth and try and get the move. But watch Shadowglow, who pulls to the inside down the main straight and has the pair of them. He makes contact with Pease towards turn 1. Pease eventually does get out of it. Shadowglow moved over on him. He manages to get into P6, and from those hards he is going to chase. The rest of the order now shaking up then as Campbell, Moustache, you can see the ground they've lost. They're even behind Gary now, so they've lost, with that 5-lap difference in tyres, numerous places. They've gone from the back, from the front of the train down to the back as Cucumber picks up a time penalty now. And watch those penalties rack up throughout the course of this Grand Prix, that you can be sure of. So Campbell and Moustache have got some ground to make up. The same will go for Frank, Sweetcrown and Cucumber when they decide to come in. So a lot of work to do for those guys then, as the order has been shaken up. At Hazara, you can see the tyre differential then. His mediums just a lot older than the cars around him then, and now Verstappen is the next man to pressure them. These guys have got to get Hazara as soon as possible, as Verstappen draws a level, trying to get round the outside of turn 12, and Hazara just has to yield in the Haas then. He is sliding, nothing he can do on those older tyres.
Wow, easy move there for Verstappen. Hazara goes off the track again, so that's another challenge we wanted there, as I heard something in the background. Are you cracking your knuckles?
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I heard you cracking your knuckles. But the guys in the lead are in the pit lane there, Frank and Sweetcon 1 and 2. But let's see where they rejoin in traffic here with his second DRS train. Now converged to one big DRS train. And let's see, Shadowglow has a huge undercut, as he was the first man to pit in that train, up into second place. It was worked out for him so far, but one of the guys with fresher tyres respond. Here comes Russell down the inside. He even cuts the corner too to overtake it. Will he give that place back due to cutting corners? Not quite sure. Campbell and Frank. Campbell moves himself up into P7 ahead of Frank, who's just came on the pit lane, and he's in P8 on the freshest tyres out of a lot. That is Pease has been overtaken by Verstappen going into turn 6, and in turn 7 Sweetcard overtakes Matt for P12. He's also the freshest tyres out of the lot, and he's punched up behind his big train as well on the freshest tyres. So they haven't lost a lot of ground, these guys, being stuck in this train, but it'll be very difficult to get past these guys on all the tyres, especially in the high speed section, because when you're behind people on all the tyres, you lose a lot of time because they're not carrying the same speed as you. It's so frustrating. You've got to be very patient while overtaking, but at the same time make your way through very quickly. You can see swing clouds all over the back of Gary there. He's on 6-lap different tyres, so he should be able to get him with the grip difference. He has a bit of a moment out on turn 10 does Gary, and here comes Sweet Cloud right past the McLaren driver before the high-speed section, currently outside the DRS range, but can he get himself back in? Chris, however, the only driver on the soft compound tyres in this middle stint. Sweet Cloud, like in Hungary, picks up a 3-second time penalty, which would be detrimental towards the end of the Grand Prix. But I expect to see Chris to see make up a lot of ground too. Newt still leads this race, has a massive gap advantage. Those soft compound tyres are paid off for him because he's not involved in any of the fights. So here we are down this straight. There comes Campbell and Hazara. Here comes Frank on the Hazara. Here comes the other Haas and the Aston Martin on Hazara. So Hazara's lost 4 places there on the straight. And here comes the Aston Martin side by side with the second Haas and Moustache there, trying to go alongside him. Now we're going down into turn 2. Frank, Chris on those soft compound tyres, having the extra grip on those Aston Martin, and nicely moved there for him. He goes up into P8.
Yeah, great move from Chris then, using those softs to his advantage, and Moustache eventually had to yield. This entire train swamping Hazara. He does not have the grip, and Sweet Crown knows it too. He goes to the outside towards turn 6 as Moustache nearly runs into the back of Chris, and that balked the 2 cars in front of behind him, and Sweet Crown unable to capitalise then, and he's going to lose out through this middle sector. Overtaking opportunities are slim, but he's going to try and carve one out on the run towards turn 9 side by side, somehow not touching, and now into turn 10. Can he sweep the long way around the outside of the Haas? He runs up towards the white line, uses all of the track and then some, and does have 10th place in the end. Sweet Crown managing to stay with the rest of the field as they continue to swamp the helpless Norwegian, who now runs down in 11th position. So let's reset from the action end and take stock of the race situation. Nuth does still lead 4.5 seconds clear. That first stint, that soft start, was a genius call, an inspired decision, and he now leads by 4.5 seconds to the good. Shadowglow and Verstappen swap places down the straight, working together, trying to distance the cars in front, behind, trying to close on the man in front, as the 2 Alpines are on the move too. Both of them sweeping past Pease. What a recovery from Russell, and he's making use of these old tyres still, those old mediums. He's holding on to them very well and making moves. He now runs in 4th. He's going to let his teammate through though. Look at this. It's Pease. Oh, he picks up a penalty in a place that I wouldn't have expected. And now he's going very slowly through turns number 4 and 5. Frank up behind him then. Did you see Pease then? As now round the outside, Chris trying to carve out another move at turn 6. Sweeping cleanly round the outside of Frank and snatching away that 7th place. What action, what drama then. As behind the 2 Alpines swapping places then, we've got battles galore in this middle sector.
I'm not quite sure if, as Frank there taps the back of the Aston Martin there, and also Haas goes off the track. That's Hazara, who's on those all-media compounds. Here comes Chris in this triple right-hander, gets squeezed the inside, and there's contact too between the two. Pease goes off the track, rejoins the circuit, still on time, they contact again, that's the 3rd time, and Chris still stays in P6 there. But I'm not quite sure what happened between Pease and Frank, because Pease went out the 50-metre board, while I was about to say Frank. He's not quite sure if there's been 2 made contact there, and he's lost a bit of end plate damage. He's got a bit of front wing damage too. He hasn't bitted. Has he got front wing damage? He had a lot of understeer in that final corner. Maybe he's got a minor front wing damage, but not too much. And here comes Frank then on the Aston Martin, and let's see what happens down at turn 1. Frank gets his man into P1. Here comes, not P1, turn 1 at turn for P6. Here comes Frank, and here comes Chris as well. Moustache, Sweet Cloud and Pease all in that midfield squabbling away, as Chris stays ahead of Frank for the time being, with Moustache all over the back of the 2. Our pole sitter currently down in P8 for the time being, as Frank pushing the Aston Martin in the corners then, as he's desperately trying to get past him. Hazara overtakes Pease as well, so Pease is good progress. Now dropping backwards as goes down the inside, forces Hazara out wide, but I'm pretty sure Hazara will get to him due to that full wind damage he has on that AlphaTauri. Goes down the inside into turn number 7, I believe it is, and he passes the AlphaTauri finally.
Wow, what entertaining but ultimately detrimental battling between this entire train, as Chris now holding them all back. Then Frank looks ultra eager to try and snatch up that place. Remember, he and Moustache were running right at the sharp end of the field. Now they've been frustrated, now behind the Aston Martin. Frank trying to carve out a move. Can he send the inside? No, he waits, heading through the last sector. Of course, there's no real room to overtake through 15. There will be though down the main straight, and Moustache again will try and follow through down down the main straight. Watch for more action then. A twitch from the rear end of the Aston Martin as they head out of the final corner. And now down the straight once again. As pulling out of the slipstream now goes Frank. Now draws alongside and going to go through. Watch out for Moustache following through. He tucks himself onto the inside of the Aston Martin but gets pinched in there. Unable to find the room. Unable to find the space. Still fighting on. But he's going to lose out then through turn 2 and has to settle in to P8 for the moment then as Frank goes up the road. So Moustache again frustrated. This race has not ended up how he wanted to as Cucumber retires. That is in the pit lane unfortunately, so that will not bring out any kind of safety cars, but it brings an end to the race of the last weekend's race winner as Moustache is tapping away. Now Sweet Crown trying to take advantage. They bang wheels heading out of turn 6 towards turn 7 then. Sweet Crown's going to run out of space though, cannot quite find the move, or does he? As a huge oversteer moment from Moustache into turn 9 on the inside. Sweet Crown on the outside. Moustache holds on inside a turn 10, but this time he runs out of road as Sweet Crown gets through and snatches up position 8 on the road. What fighting in this group. It is hard and it's hard tempered as well, but in the end Sweet Crown and Moustache do swap places multiple times and Moustache again has to sit in behind, and this race is not going to plan for the pole setter now running NP9. I will breathe for a second as we can take stock of the race leader situation. They will to make pit stops, I'm sure, further down as I'm watching Frank's car twitch sideways down the straight. He does make the move on Russell, whose tyres are betraying him, and they're almost running 3 wide behind then as Chris is swamped on the inside now. Moustache trying to get level, trying to get ahead now on the outside of turn 2. This time he's managed to get his nose in front. He's squeezed right to the edge of the track, but has it, and now he runs in 7th place, or does he? Chris is trying to fight it back towards turn 4, but he's got to watch out for Sweet Crown on the outside. He gets run out of the road, does the Mercedes, has to settle in. Can he find another move into turn 6? Dives daringly late on the brakes. Can he find that one? Yes, he does. Sweet Crown now runs 8th. Please take over, Jamie. This is relentless.
So a few laps ago, Chris, who's making up ground, has now lost a lot of ground. He's down into P9 then, so ever since that midfield battle going on there, he's lost a lot of time as well. There's a bit of contact here and argy-bargy between those guys there, and they've finally been released, the guys who were stuck behind the Aston Martin. Frank in P5, who lost a lot of time due to squabbling with P's, and Chris at the same time, making contact and losing a hell of a lot of time by that. Started to gain on these guys ahead. Can he get himself back in this DRS as ILT Freddy has overtaken Matt in the triple right-hander there, as he's on different tyres of course, or different age of tyres. That's why he overtook him there. Not really a convenient place to overtake. But however, the guys at the front, Verstappen is slowly to start to gain on News advantage. The gap is 3.5 now. It was 4.5 a few laps ago, but his tyres are slightly that fresher with Shadow Glow still in P3 of those hardcore powered tyres. You undercutted them all at the beginning of this race as well, making that first pit stop. Campbell's did a great job in P4 too. And Frank, 1.7 seconds away. He's got the freshest tyres out the lot. As Moustache has dropped down the order, he's spun out of turn 1.
Moustache round, and I'm not sure how that happened. I'm just catching it as you are, but he recovers and now runs 12th. What a disastrous race for the Haas driver, who badly needed points and picks up a time penalty just to rub salt in the wounds really for the Haas, and now he runs in 12th place and not looking any better as P's retired again. That looks to be a pit lane retirement then for the AlphaTauri. Rocco's in just behind him in 17th position at the moment, so that's 2 drivers out of the race. 17 still running. We should be getting towards the final round of pit stops very, very soon, and it was Hazara, Gary, Matt. They've already taken those pit stops, and they're going to try, as they did in the first stint, to make up ground by pitting earlier. So expect to see pit stops potentially on this lap, or maybe in the next coming laps. Nuth has got older tyres than those behind him, but he is looking to continue to extend, and the gap, it was closing, but he's managing to hold it just nicely, just over 3 seconds to QVR Verstappen. So if it's stable, that's what Nuth needs. That first stint, that brilliant start, that brilliant strategy on the soft, he's trying to make use of it. As further down the field, we do have a busy pit lane. Russell, Chris, and also Yum, they're all going to come in then, get off those tyres that they were running in the second stint. As further up the field, we do have a spinner. And actually, no, never mind. That's as now Moustache is retired, and that one's in the pit lane as well. Not sure why he would have done, because he was still running in the points, but he does get out and is straight out the session. Not his day indeed. So Russell, Chris, Yum, they get tyres on mediums for Russell and Chris, and Yum, sorry, and soft for Chris. Out the pit lane comes Russell. He was getting the tyres on first. Important few laps in front then, just comes out ahead of Hazara, now going to push hard and move his way up towards that second place fight.
Yeah, so every time Nuth has been in front, he's always been in control and stabilised the gaps on the softs and the mediums. He's doing it once again, so that shows his great race pace as well in the Ferrari. But will he pit soon though to try and prevent the undercut from happening when the guys might be pitting early? Then there's 9 laps left in this Grand Prix. Those guys have still got one more pit stop left to make as Pease has left the session. So a lot of rage quits unfortunately in this Grand Prix. And a Haas comes out the pit lane. That's Mustache, his retired car, who starts to come out the pit lane. But here comes Verstappen in the pit lane, then the first of many to do the undercut on the guys in the lead there. So let's see if this undercut pays dividends for him. Can the undercut Nuth? The undercut is very powerful around here.
Of course, though, he's got to watch out for potentially Russell further back. We'll see if he's able to get out in front of him. These guys extended. This is the reason why. Soft tyres go on then. It's feasible to take those to the end of the race, and Nuth has shown in the first stint they can be a good tyre for this length of time. And Verstappen's looking to leverage that then. Luke has followed him in the Aston Martin. I said watch out for Russell. He's a couple of seconds back. Coming down the main straight then as Verstappen floors the throttle pedal, getting away, and he is going to get away in front of the Alpine. Now, these guys grabbing undercuts, it does mean that you'd expect Verstappen to gain some time on Nuth through this lap, but of course he's got to worry about trying to keep Russell out of DRS range. Russell, though, does not have much battery to use, it must be said. Frank has now joined this P2 battle, now running P4, staring down the rear wing of Campbell, and again it's these two as they were in the first stint, running pretty much nose to tail. So Shadowglow is now pulling these guys along on a set of the hard tyres then, a lap fresher than Nuth's mediums, and I'd expect Nuth to be coming in because he wants to try and protect that lead. He does not want to sacrifice the lead that he built up through getting undercut. So the Ferrari man predictably dives to the pit lane as he followed by the group behind. Shadowglow in, Campbell in, Frank stays out. So he goes against the grain, try to extend those tyres and get fresher tyres to the end of the race. So let's see where these guys come out in relation to Verstappen. Has Verstappen managed to gap the likes of Shadowglow and Campbell? And will Verstappen get out in front? Will he be closer to Nuth? Let's see. Nuth has put on a set of the soft tyres, as has Campbell. As I imagine will Shadowglow, no, he goes for the medium tyres, so he's looking to try and get pace near the end of the stint. He emerges right in front of Campbell. Nuth gets to the end of the pit lane, drops the limiter, and away he goes. But look at the order being shaken up then, and look at how much that gap has been sliced down. It was a huge outlap from Verstappen, and big lap from Russell too behind him. The gap now just a little over a second, and Verstappen is staring down the race leader for the first time now. So he's worked his way up towards it. It's a tentative battle, locked on right at the edge of 1 second DRS. Verstappen chasing Nuth. This is going right to the flag.
It is indeed, but it all depends if Verstappen can get himself in DRS range of Nuth there. He is running low on battery, of course, and you can see the effects of the undercut. They gained 2.5 seconds in 1 lap. Did Verstappen on Nuth. He has got himself in DRS momentarily, but he will drop outside of it to try and get himself in that DRS range. You can see Nuth using a battery as well to try and push him outside the 1 second range of DRS. But what about the guys in first and second? Because in the first stint as well, and Frank and Sweetcorn extending their first stints and once again extending their second stints, but have they left it a bit too late because they've got many laps to go in this race so far? And Frank only caught that pack before they started pitting for the second time in this race as well. So has he left it a bit too late? As Frank is in the pit lane then to go on the soft hard tyres, and Sweetcorn has been left out there as well. He won't have many laps either to try and get himself back in this fight, but we have got Mercedes just spun down there. That is Rocco Reggie, who's spun out of turn 3. Very easy place to drop it indeed as you go swooping through the left hand and trying to get on the throttle. But here comes Nuth in P2 then as Verstappen sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, just trying to get himself back in this DRS range, but got nothing to respond with as he's very low on battery. Here comes Campbell on the pit lane. He rejoins in P5 behind his teammate running a great race again. Chris in P7. Frank is down in P8 then. So let's see in his last few laps of the Grand Prix, can Frank close down these guys?
He should have theoretically more pace than anyone in front of him. Chris is first up on his hit list. He will try and chase him down. So Nuth up at the front, just about for the moment managing to resist Verstappen's charge. The undercut brought Verstappen right into play, but he burned off the last of his battery reserves with that effort. And Nuth with a lap fresher tyres, you sense can start to control this race from the front. And I sense with Russell dragging the group behind it along with 3-lap-old medium tyres. I'm not sure if he's going to be, if any of these guys are going to be able to get themselves into range of Nuth. I think Nuth may well have this one at the moment, but of course penalties, mistakes, anything can happen in these last few laps. So Nuth is going to have to look over his shoulder. Will the former Division 2 champion Sweet Crown has gone into the pit lane from the lead. We'll see where he emerges. He's going to, I imagine, be near the back of this group with work to do in the closing laps. He may have left it a bit too late if he wanted to get the optimal strategy, but we'll see now. Further down the order, Russell picks up a time penalty. That's going to be detrimental because the field is still stacked up near behind him, and he's going to be on the defensive with older tyres as his teammate Campbell's going to swap places down the straight. He glides through and now runs in a P3, and I think Russell is going to play a game to try and hold back the cars behind, including Shadowglow. So Shadowglow now in 5th, trying to chase him down. Frank has got Crest in as Matt runs in front of Azara. Gary, Sweet Crown, look, it's oh so close amongst the top 14 as Fleddy in 14th at the back of this group as Sweet Crown picks up a time penalty. Doesn't look like it's going to be a good day for him in terms of point scoring, but we're just going to have to look, Jamie, all these battles looking to be resolved. It's 5.5 laps to go in the race and everything finally poised as Russell, you sense, he's been driving clear of everyone throughout this season, but now with older tyres, he's on the defensive, and Shadowglow, you'd imagine, in P5, ready and eager to snatch that place away because his championship rival is just up the road.
Yeah, QVR Campbell, can he get himself a podium since the first time since the Singapore Grand Prix? Quite a few races ago, but look at that Shadowglow. You can see him carrying more speed in the corners, but Russell's able to do the same thing, and this is helping Campbell pull away.
Watch Frank,
because he's outside the DRS as well, and also Frank right behind too, didn't even see him there. He's on the soft power tyre, so Campbell's got to watch out for Shadowglow there. Look at that, DRS games are being played, and look at that, Frank could go around the outside as well, and this might help Frank overtake Russell as well. They're both at GR, is Russell and Shadowglow, so it will be a good exchange between those two after the race. But here comes Frank and here comes Shadow! No, we don't want to see that at all, unfortunately for those guys. But Frank's up into P4, and now he's going to catch Campbell. Can he catch Campbell with 4 laps left to go in this race? I'm not quite sure what personal those two are having so far in this season, but hopefully they can drive cleanly towards the end, because we don't want to see that as Shadowglow gets a 5-second time penalty for corner cutting. So yeah, that's his race ended.
I would imagine that's going to get removed in the stewards room. I think Russell was trying to play a game for his teammate, try and hold these guys back, but ultimately I think he went over the line there with that move down the straight. Then Shadowglow, nothing he could have done, he had to avoid, so I don't think that penalty is going to stand in the stewards room. Further back, we've still got action in as Azara is trying to hold this train back just as he was in the second stint, running low on grip, the tyres falling off, and still having to look over his shoulder and defend from groups behind him then. Sweet Crown is all over him, but so difficult to try and scythe out an overtaking opportunity through this second sector then. So high speed, no real braking zones, and you can't quite find the move, and Sweet Crown has to sit in behind. It's been a frustrating evening for the Mercedes man. He runs oh so close behind, and Azara wide, heading through. It's, oh my goodness, through turn 14 and through 15. Sweet Crown was caught on the outside and tried to force his way through. Couldn't find it, but I imagine down this main straight he should be able to get it done. Now, hard on the battery though is Hazara. He's got more to use than the cars behind him, so Sweet Crown's going to have to work hard for this. Picking up the slipstream now, and the DRS goes down the tiniest of gaps, threads the needle, gets on the inside and gets the place. Sweet Crown into 8th place then. He really worked for that one, finding just the tiniest of gaps that Hazara left. So he gets 8th, and he can try and move away with the penalties that he has. 6 seconds to his name. He's going to have to try and extend that gap and hope that Hazara holds the rest of this group back. Matthew Forte is the next driver to try and challenge, looking at a decent haul of points in his first race of the season, working his way up towards the Haas drivers. He runs 10th, Ewan behind him in 11th. Watch for that train and the way it unfolds near the end of the race. But up at the front, Nuth, he's broken the challenge of Verstappen. Just sheer pace has kept him afloat, and after breaking away in the first 2 laps, despite coming under brief threat to that second pit phase, he's never really come under pressure, and so far he's just controlling it. Just looks a league above the rest at the moment.
An absolute controlled and dominant drive for Nuth there. Well-deserved victory if he gets it as well. 2.6 seconds to gap between himself and Verstappen. Might be able to afford a 3-second time penalty if he gets that gap over 3 seconds or so. But the main battle is between P3, between Campbell and Frank. Frank is just in touching range of DRS, and so is Campbell in the back of Verstappen as well. He's on fresher tyres than Verstappen, albeit one lap, which can make a bit of a difference as well. Same with Frank in P4 too. 2 laps difference. So a battle for P2 might be on his way. No, it won't. Oh, Campbell! He gets himself a 3-second time penalty, so he won't be on the podium unless guys around him picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that's his charge over. However, Shadowglow went out wide at turn 15, I believe it was, on the last lap, so might have picked himself up a warning, just extended the shot limits again. But that battle between Hazara and Sweetcard, that was very close indeed. Hazara not willing to let him go like he did back in Hungary, where those two came close and personal, and therefore Sweetcard picked up a penalty because of that. But the gap is 2 seconds now, so can Sweetcard, like you said, hope that Hazara can hold this train up and try and pull away as much as he can before the end of the race. He's got 3 laps left to try and build up as much of a gap as he can. But the battle for P2 looks incredible indeed. There's a Mercedes in the way, so that could give Frank DRS, considering he's not in DRS range of Verstappen. It might benefit him getting closer.
Yeah, that's Rocco a lap down. He actually ghosted through Frank earlier on in the lap. He's on fresh soft, so he's got more pace, and he's decided to, I suppose, have his own intervention here. Frank, just to be clear, over this DRS detection line, he is not within 1 second of Campbell, but down this straight, he will get DRS as a result of Rocco's car being there. That's not intentional by Rocco, but he has intervened in this fight, and Frank is on the move. He's, of course, looking up towards Verstappen, but with just 2 laps to go, it seems like a stretch too far unless Verstappen gets a penalty. And now Rocco is frustrating Campbell even more as they run almost inside each other as Rocco eventually gets through. And Campbell just trying to run his own race and not get distracted by that, as Shadowglow picks up a time penalty in P5. That, I believe, is his second. Oh no, that was his first time penalty in terms of corner cutting, but he did get that one for overtaking Russell, which I do think will be removed. As it stands right now, that would not affect where he finishes. He still runs in P5 for the time being, then Chris being the nearest driver to getting in that range. Russell trying to break that penalty range to him, so still battles galore out there on the circuit, but it's mainly influenced by the penalties and tried to clear or get themselves within the penalty range of the car in front or behind. That is the game in these final few laps. Verstappen still trying to keep pressure on Nuth. He's managed to stay just within that 3-second range in case Nuth gets the penalty, so Verstappen's given himself as much of a chance as he could have done with the older tyres. But Nuth heading on towards the final lap, he has looked utterly imperious up to this point, and 28 laps done, just 1 more to go. He's kept himself in the rhythm. It's been a tough season for him, but as it stands, he is looking all geared up towards towards his first race win of the season. Watch out though for Frank trying to take down Campbell, but this time though it's Campbell that has the DRS from Rocco, so equalising I suppose in that fight, and Frank able to stay behind. I imagine though he's going to be content sitting in then. P3 will be his if he keeps it on the track. Verstappen is probably too far away, as still battling down, as Hazara still trying to fend off Frank, and Sweetcrown actually may well have a pretty good chance at a decent result despite 6 seconds of penalties, because of this fighting behind. Matt has been completely neutralised by Hazara in P9. Yuma, I imagine, is equally frustrated in P11 then, can't find a way through, and has to sit in behind the Williams and the Haas. He seems to have more pace but unable to use it as it stands, as we now just have half a lap to go here in Losail. It's been a race that up at the front has had very little drama. Down in the midfield, very much the opposite in that enduring DRS train, with position swapping and changing in the pit laps really influencing the order all the way through the race. But of course there has just been the one constant, that is this man, Enel Arnouth. Again, way back in season 6 he dominated Division 2 to take home the championship. Division 1 hasn't been kind to him in the past, but it will be tonight. Enel Arnouth out of the final corner, he comes away with the race win here in Qatar. He wins the 13th round of the championship. Over the line, Verstappen will take P2 and Frank P3 on penalties then, as Shadowglow's penalty does get served. That is going to drop him behind Russell. Chris jumps the pair of them into P5, but I do think that Shadowglow will eventually wrap up P5 then, with Russell at P7, Chris P6. Behind Matt, TU40 does get P8 on the road. Good race from him. Then Jim him. Hazara drops back because of penalties too. Then Fleddy, Sweetcrown, Gary and Luke. Slash will be the last point scorer of drama on the opening lap. Put pay to his chances in this race, but he's doing effectively a qualifying lap then down at the back of the field, looking to set the fastest time he can. The fastest lap of the race, I imagine, will go his way. So that will bring an end to the Qatar Grand Prix. It was a fairly unique race, I think, but maybe not in terms of the way Qatar races usually unfold. I think that was a fairly typical one. But Nuth, you have to say, putting on those softs at the start, as I said earlier, it was an inspired decision. And in races that are so often decided by the last few laps on this game, we found a race, Jamie, that was settled within the first two.
Yeah, there's an absolute masterclass there from Nuth in P1. They had no one to battle throughout the whole race, just on his own. Although it's not easy, obviously, but at the same time, no trouble whatsoever with cars in the way, nothing, no DRS play whatsoever, and he did fully deserve that win with his outright pace on those soft power tyres beginning. So, absolute wise decision to go to soft power tyres, break the DRS train, and keep them there throughout the whole race, with Verstappen 2.7 seconds behind. And Nuth did have two warnings at the beginning, or near the beginning towards the race, about lap 4 or 5. So he did have two warnings. So one more warning would have been a 3-second time penalty. Great recovery from Frank in P3 there, considering he was in that midfield mayhem with all those guys bumping each other. It's a shame for Kevin Campbell too in P4. Would have got his first point of the season, but unfortunately picked up that 3-second time penalty. And Chris in P5, great drive from him, and Russell from P19 to P6, incredible race for him as well. With a bit of advantage between those guys there, but Russell should have focused on Frank instead of his own teammate, because Frank had more of a chance to close in on Campbell than Shadowglow did, I dare say, with those penalties he has right now. So I think Russell should have focused more on Frank defending from him than Shadowglow, because ultimately Frank's up into P3. But yeah, driver of the day for sure. Got to be Nuth for sure, because he just pulled away from everybody and never looked back since.
Yeah, you can't really argue with that one. It was one of the dominant drives. Actually, we've become more accustomed to them in recent rounds as opposed to the last lap grandstand finishes we had plenty of earlier on in the season. So Nuth takes out the race win, as we said. And, well, in a season, again, it's not been his greatest season. He did pick up a podium in the 10th round of the championship in Spa, but apart from that, it has been hard times for the Ferrari man. But this will certainly serve well for him going into the final round, and he's looking at potentially picking up a position well within inside the championship top 10 if he also has a great final round. Of course, we have already said both championships were wrapped up going into this race, and P2 is really the one we're focusing on. So Verstappen managing to get some points up on Shadowglow, but it's still all to play for going into that final round of the season. We will see that next week. I believe it is coming to you from Kota. I do believe that is going to be the location for the final race. Austin, it's a track that I love myself. Not sure about the drivers themselves, but hopefully it's going to put on some great action then to round off the season.
Well, I've actually got a race in Kota tomorrow night, and last time I raced in Kota, I got a race win in that league too, so hopefully I can race another race in that league and get another win there consecutively. But it's not really one of my favourite tracks, but for some reason it suits me well. Not quite sure why. But anyways, anything could happen in league racing. So Kota is always a good track for racing, especially in the middle sector where you can see plenty of people going side by side, that middle sector there. So hopefully we can see more of that. But here in Qatar, what a race this was, with plenty of battles out there track, as you expect as well. A bit iffy at times, but Robin is racing, and we'll see what happens to the stewards later on in the race. But Border to Nuth, absolutely incredible driver indeed. No one can take that away from him at all.
Not at all. And yes, I do think, as a contrast to the last few rounds, I do think we will have quite a busy stewards room. So, of this 14th race season, that is 13 races in the books, and just one more to look forward to. As we said, it is going to be the US Grand Prix from Austin, Texas, from Kota. Be sure not to miss it as season 11 comes to a close, so make sure to tune into that. But I think from the 13th round of the season here at Qatar, that should wrap up all the action here tonight from myself and Jamie. It is goodbye for now, and until next time, we'll see you later.